Traditions are very interesting things. Sometimes there are ceremonial traditions like an annual family picnic or maybe grandmother's birthday every year. Also, there are some unspoken traditions, cultural ideals that we have in the family that people don't talk about, but they accept their role in. Let me give you an example. I'm going to tell you a little story. Spoke to a friend of mine a few days ago. She came from a large family, and she was a bit upset because a certain niece or nephew is still trying to find themselves. They're in their early 20s, and that happens a lot with young people. Not all young people know exactly what they want to do when they graduate high school. And sometimes they have to kind of go out in the world and see what it's about before they can find out who they are. And this lady was really all out of sorts about it. She went on and on about how intelligent this person was in school and how active they were in clubs and how active they were in the church and everything else. And I let her speak because I know what that's like. So you get placed into this world where you're expected to do all of these things without taking a second to figure out who you are. You just go with the program. But for some people, going with the program is just not enough. There's something deep down inside of them that tells them there's a little bit more. And depending on the family dynamic, sometimes they don't even fulfill their full potential because of the pressures involved. So she went on and on about how disappointed this person was and alluded to the fact that that person was suffering from mental illness, hence the reason why she called me. I guess she wanted me to give my amateur diagnosis on the person, but I refused to do so. So when I told her, I said they've got to find their own way, she got a little bit upset with me. See, what she was looking for is she was looking to call me to see if she can get an amateur diagnosis so she would have a reason to explain why this person strayed away from the norm. They're not doing anything that's abnormal. There are a lot of people in this world that just don't find their niche right away. But we've been programmed to believe that you have to achieve certain milestones at certain times. And in some cases, that is true. But when it comes to your own success, we are our own individual people. And our timing is our timing. That's between us and the Creator. And sometimes some of us have to go through some bullshit first before we achieve our full potential. I was one of them. So I shared some of my story with her about the fact that I was a very anxious child with the crying spells and the fear of people. And also not achieving certain developmental milestones. I barely spoke until I was 3 years old. And during that time, people of color really didn't consider things like therapy for their children. I don't blame my parents for not taking me to get help. We were a high-profile family. So I guess in a small way they were kind of embarrassed that they had the idea that their daughter had to go to a psychiatrist at a young age, so I never did receive any help. However, the family, some members of the family, I'm not going to say all of them, they figured in their mind that something was wrong with me. Well, something was wrong with me. But see, assuming that something is wrong with someone doesn't help them at all. That's just an assumption. See, until action is taken, it doesn't do any good, does it? So I had to grow up, go through some mess, and then finally realize that I needed the help, and I had to go get it alone. See, there's some things that we got to go through by ourselves, and that's what I tried to explain to my friend. See, her so-called call of goodwill, she wasn't so much disappointed. I think she was a little bit embarrassed. See, people don't understand. Sometimes when they get around other people, especially once they've had children and grandchildren, they get around other people and talk about how great their family members are. There are some people that try to one-up each other in conversation about how their grandchild did this and how their daughter did that, deep down trying to see if their child is better than somebody else's or if their granddaughter is better than somebody else's. So I asked her, I said, is there any other reason why you feel this way? Are you truly concerned about how they feel, or are you more so embarrassed? And she said, how could you say that? I said, because you really, really, really are upset over this situation. And I said, and this young person who decided to go out on their own, They don't seem to be so upset about the situation as you are. I said, what's going on? I said, why do you feel that you have to be responsible for every single life in the family? Who made you the queen of the family? And boy, she got a little bit upset then. But I kind of wanted her to get upset. See, sometimes when you poke the bear a little bit, you find out how they really feel. And in her case, she put on a good front that day. See, she wasn't getting what she wanted from me. So when I finally addressed the issue, she said, well, you know what, over the years, I knew something was wrong, and da-da-da, and da-da-da. I said, what make you think that them taking a break right now to find themselves is wrong? Because it doesn't go against the norm in the family? See, that's the problem. Just because you have a certain norm in the family that family members do a certain way for so many years doesn't make it necessarily right. And that particular norm doesn't apply to every single person. So when somebody comes along who just doesn't follow the program the way you think they should follow them, all of a sudden you create this thing in your mind that there's something really wrong with that person. Could be, could not. And let's say some years later that person does find out what's going on and everything's been corrected and they moved on with their life and they're happy. Some people are so backwards minded they still think and look at that same person the way they were. A mess. So anytime they get in contact with that person, they already have a preconceived notion that that person is a mess, even though they overcame their obstacle. And unfortunately, a lot of people claim to be God-fearing people. I don't think God has anything to do with that mentality. So I say this to say this. If you have that one person in the family who decides to go in another direction, don't persecute them. Praise them. Because there are some people in this world who are just not designed to follow the program. Encourage them. Besides, they might be the first. Have you ever thought of that? They might open up the family to different perspectives and create another spot for the family in this world. Encourage them. Don't put them down. And whatever happened in the past and whatever they went through, as long as they've moved on and they live their life to the best of their ability and they're not involved in that bullshit anymore, who are you to sit there and judge them? You better take a look in the mirror before you do that. And you wonder why this person doesn't stay in contact with you. They know why. They don't want to be judged by their past constantly every time they see you. They don't want to be talked down on. They don't want to be frowned on. There are too many people in this world that are willing to love them, willing to take your place. So get with the program yourself. Let's try that. Just saying.